Good afternoon. Let me begin by thanking Sasakawa Peace Foundation for extending this kind invitation to me to come to Japan. This is my first visit in Japan, and over the last 2 days, as Mr. Han Yu-san mentioned, I have had intense discussions and meetings with some of my counterparts, but also with people from the academic world and journalism, think tanks and experts and in Japan, and I've been very pleasantly surprised to see how much common we have in common in regards to regional issues, global issues. It has to be recognized for us to understand the new dynamics of the so-called new emerging powers, emerging markets, and how they will shape the future of our world in the years to come. Now, of course, in Japan, you are right at the heart of it, because you have been at the center of this economic, technological development, for so many decades. Of course, these emerging markets by themselves will not be able to shape the international system by just economic performance. You need other values, other principles to create a new international system that will be based on the principles of justice, fairness, equality, transparency, legitimacy, meritocracy, pluralism, and other values. Purely economic analysis are wrong, or at least correct to a certain point. But for these emerging markets to become great powers, influential powers, sustainable influential powers, they will have to implement some other principles in their systems, especially meritocracy, pluralism, and transparency. Because without recognizing the reality of others, recognizing the fact that others exist and you have to live with them, you can only end up with some sort of an autocracy. Turkish foreign policy has begun to take new directions. In many ways, we are responding to the new realities of the 21st century. During the Cold War, it was very easy for countries like us to position ourselves. That is, we belong to the Western Bloc, and that was easy, that was it. But now, the world has become much more interdependent. The national, regional, and global changes have forced Turkey to follow a proactive, a multidimensional, multidirectional foreign policy. There is also an element of idealism and realism in Turkish foreign policy, no doubt. There is the element of idealism is such that, yes, we want to contribute to the future of our region and to global peace. That's why we are very active in all of the regional issues. Just look at the couple of major events that happened over the last couple of weeks. We visited Kuwait and Qatar, and we took with us the largest number of Turkish businessmen, about 450 businessmen, companies, big companies, to Kuwait and Qatar for a number of business projects. We came back, the government crisis in Lebanon erupted. Prime Minister Hariri, who was then the Prime Minister of Lebanon, on his way back from the United States, made a stop in Istanbul. Our Prime Minister had a discussion with him, and then our Prime Minister went to Syria, had a trilateral summit. In the middle of all this, Iranian nuclear talks took place in Istanbul just last week, the second round of talks. Next week, we are going to Kyrgyzstan now because there's a new government, but political stability needs support. In Kyrgyzstan, and so on and so forth. I mean, I can go down the list. Now, all of these issues, are part of Turkish foreign policy agenda. So it's not just one item, 2 items, but it's really the whole region and more global issues. So there is an element of, intellectual understanding of these issues that, we can make a contribution. We can come up with new, fresh ideas to resolve the conflicts in our region. But there is also an element of realism, where we understand the realities on the ground and act accordingly. And we do this by cooperating with our allies. Again, there is no contradiction. Sometimes you hear this debate about Turkey shifting its axis, moving away from the West, becoming more Eastern, as if in itself becoming Eastern is a bad thing. We're talking about in Japan, right? There's nothing wrong with, being Eastern or looking East. But as I said, it doesn't come at the expense of our relationship with the West. In fact, we are very much actively involved in Afghanistan, for example, as part of NATO. And all the other things that I mentioned, they maintain Turkey's significance between East and West. Turkish economy, as you know, in the recent years, have made great strides. And when AK Party government came to power, Turkish economy was a mere $250 billion economy. Right now, it's an $800 billion economy, and we are moving very fast to the $1 trillion level. And now we are part of G20, so we are part of the efforts to redefine, restructure the global financial system. And Turkish economy moves again in multiple directions. Our automotive sector, our construction sector, and in many other areas, Turkish economy has become a major powerhouse in its region. This is a good thing, not only for us, but also for our neighbors. And as a soft power, you project that power, obviously, into your region, and it gives you leverage. And it gives you leverage in terms of finding solutions to problems in your region. Turkish educational system, Turkish universities, science and technology, infrastructure, innovation, incubation, research and development, Turkish culture, Turkish movies, Turkish cinema, and just go down the list. I mean, all the elements of Turkish soft power are now attracting more and more people. Their attention, but also people, to Turkey. Tourism, again, is another example. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, the number of tourists that visited Turkey reached about 29 million. That's really a revolutionary change, from about 10 years ago. It was like 7, 8 million. Why? Because, the service sector is excellent. Turkish Airlines is becoming a global market brand now. You can fly now, of course, with Turkish Airlines from Tokyo to Istanbul directly 6 times a day and a week. And all these things are making Turkey an important soft power in its region. And again, this is a good thing for regional peace and stability. By saying that Turkey will continue to expand its foreign policy in multiple directions, particularly in Asia, because I started with Asia, with Japan. Last year, we signed the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation with ASEAN, and we would like to become more active, visible, present in the Asian context, economically, politically. We have excellent bilateral relations with a number of Asian countries, but we would like to further expand those because we cooperate with many countries, including Japan, in many international institutions like the United Nations and others. And with the development model that has emerged and sustained itself in Asia over the last 50, 60 years, I think we can benefit from that tremendously. We can learn a lot from that tremendously. That doesn't mean that Asia faces no problems, no doubt. I mean, there are issues on your agenda also. But I think this mutual learning process can enrich our perspective, our understanding of regional and global issues at a time when the demarcation line between what is national, what is regional, and what is global is becoming more and more slim. So thank you very much.